Oh no, I've got that on mute the whole time. Oh no, that's not very good. Yeah, we'll start that one again. Hello everyone, welcome back to the stream. Today we're going to go over some panel designs. I'm going to be looking at some comics that I've picked out some panels from, and sort of look at how they tell stories and sort of the shape language between them. And yeah, so I'm going to start off with some warm-ups, and we'll go from there. So let me jump over. Well, I'll show you the comics that we've got going on at the moment. So we're going to be looking at two comics today. The new Absolute Batman issue 2. I think issue 3 is just about to come out. And a bit of an old one, I've got a Paul Pope Spider-Man comic. This is the Tangled Web series from the early 2000s. And yeah, it's one of my favorite Spider-Mans because it doesn't have very much Spider-Man in it at all. And yeah, so those are the two that we're going to go and do some panel reviews of. And I'll start off maybe just with some warm-up sketches just to see how everyone's doing, and all that sort of stuff. So grab some reference here. Cool. And whilst I'm grabbing reference as well, I will remind you all that you can follow along on YouTube, but you can also hop into our Discord, where we have a whole community of people who are making indie comics and just chatting about indie comics as well. So we've got different areas that you can share all your what you're working on, writing, all these sort of things for just general helping each other out and trying to build a bit more of a community around comics, because I do feel that at the lower rungs, a lot of people who are very successful, but there's a little bit less for the people that are new to it all. So if you want to join, I'll pop the link in the chat for you guys to join our Discord as well. Cool. We'll just go back and do some warm-ups now. It's my Pinterest page. So just trying to not be too worried here. My warm-ups, I'm just trying to make sure that my hand is not too loose as I move into more of a concerted effort with my study. So if you guys are just joining in, we're going to be looking at some panel designs today. I've got a few comics that I've taken some scans of, and we're going to just have a look at and see what those people have done and how they've sort of laid out their panels to be able to achieve the storytelling that they want to. Right, I'm trying to work out how this hand is gonna go for me. The answer is probably not very well because it's super foreshortened on there. And we can also pop back and do some more work on character designs as well. I've got a few more designs that I still have left to do for my upcoming comic Fruit. Got lots of villains and stuff that I need to work out and see how I'm gonna design those characters. Right, and this is just it's a bit of a brutal one, but it's quite nice to start off with a bit of a challenge. Again, not focused on too much detail, just trying to get the overall gesture that I want from this pose down. Hand, and then maybe some sort of shoulder-esque thing in there. And Yeah, I think that might be all right. I can get this body shape. A bit of a volume for the chest, which is going to wrap more this way from the arms. And then down. And then we're going to, for the legs, I don't know, this hand's going to be definitely more than I'm willing to chew here. You're going to have that squash in here and the stretch on the other side, so stretch in here and then the squash of the figure in there. And then try and think about this leg shape. So just sort of concerning myself with the overall gesture and not worrying too much about the detail yet. So just the lines of action that I wanted from this. Oops. And then straight down this figure, this leg here. And then we'll have some sort of foot shape maybe on here as well. So this hand's going to be a tough one. I'll try and extend that finger out maybe a little bit more. They're going to be a bit trickier than you'd expect. So they're all going to kind of radiate out of that one side. Maybe that's all right for the gesture that we're looking at today. Pop a little cursed eyeball in there by accident. So maybe if we scale this down, draw it on a background layer, which is always good. I always make these mistakes at the beginning of a stream. Just mess up all of my layers. So now there's a massive white section on this sketch, but that's okay. And right. So got that rough layout of the pose there. Kind of want to get a bit more information about that foot, just so that I'm not completely lost whilst trying to add a bit more detail. And maybe like over, and then this from here. Right. Cool. So I'll try and from there, just maybe round it out a little bit more, just so I can have a bit more of a complete feel. And then we'll move on to the next character. We have this little scrunchie and then more hair coming off this side. I have a rough eye, and then this is going to be just about here, and then there was some ruffles or something for the skin, and I hate that, so that's not going to be there. That's too dark for the nose. One of the difficult things you've got to try and keep an eye out with female faces, I find I put way too many marks on them for form or whatever, and it can really spoil the look you're going for, which is smirking. We'll do another mouth at some other point, but I'm not crazy fussed in these warm-ups to try and do a perfect drawing. I'm just trying to get a little bit more energy and suppleness to what I'm doing, and trying not to worry too much about it, and just getting a little bit warmed up for the stream as sort of more people filter in. Right, this one, and we'll go round, and this sort of shape. So this hand's going to be a bit of a tough one to crack, but there you go, forearm, elbow into that shoulder section, and then hopefully there'll be some massive ruffles or shades, so I can not worry about that too much. Right, and then so we've got that, and then we'll come in. So maybe this into a bit more of a pose. There's going to be that big hip joint, so this is the top of the pelvis, and then your leg bone is going to be sitting somewhere in here, down to your knee bone. The knee bone's connected to the leg bone. Right. And same thing here, you're going to knee. Always end up putting the knees in the wrong places. They're kind of concurrent with each other, as you could imagine. Some sort of foot there. And gonna not do as much of a, I don't really like that style of shape. I much prefer something like this for the shin, and then some form of foot that's gonna end up here. So it's not too bad for a first crack. Don't hate it. I don't. It's no. We'll keep warming up. It was a bit of a tough pose to begin with, but we will go and move on and find another one. Right, let's have a look, see what else we've got here. It's always just using Pinterest for some warm-ups because it just makes it a little bit easier. So I've been trying to work out this character for one of the villains for Fruit, and it's kind of based off Joshi, which are like female Japanese wrestlers. and there's one in particular, and the only reason is because I saw a TikTok video of her like doing some crazy aerial. It's hard to from like the corner rope. She just jumped and stamped on someone's head, and it was probably the most insane feat I've ever seen. So I just like, well, that's probably the coolest finishing move, and I wanted to make a character out of it. So that's how we ended up with the idea for Joshi, which is a character that I'm trying to work through currently. Ooh. This is not the shape of the face that I was looking for. No. That's not what we wanted. Right, let's start again. Oh God. I don't use the polygon lasso tool, so someone else has been changing my settings. Right. Not a fan of that one, so we'll start again and find another, I reckon. Tell you what, sometimes Pinterest can be really brutal on the poses that they give you. Kind of like too much, you know, not really what you're looking for. Make sure I've got my brush selected. Just doing a character with a beanie. Right, this little shape, and then there was like a kind of collar tie situation going on. And then going for a bit more of a straighter one, but I do like the shape of this jacket that they've got. So I just think there's so many cool shapes to be found in clothing and stuff. So it's definitely, you know, even the pose isn't crazy dramatic. It's worth just trying to get that idea down to paper, just so that, you know, if there's ever a future where you want to use a character and just from a certain era, maybe their modern day, it's really important to make sure you get the costumes right, because if your comic's set in the 80s and then you're drawing costumes of characters in modern clothes, it does look a little bit strange. I do like kind of these modern styles where things are really oversized and you can kind of push things to the almost extreme, really, in terms of what is deemed accurate or acceptable, and you know, but right, little maybe some jumper thing there, and then she's got like a big skirt kind of shape. thing with her finger is pointing out, and then she's got a bag. You can maybe add a little bit of tone to this one, and then I think once we've done that, we'll move on to some panel stuff and what we really came here today for. Hope everyone's doing well and having a nice start to the week. Should let us know if you're working on anything or drawing along or anything like that. Trying to do I can do like a bit of colour first. Yeah. Sort of like this. That's not what I wanted. And just drop a little bit of whatever detail and stuff we want it on there. It should look really grumpy. Bum, bum, bum. Something like this where her head is obviously way too small, but we will solve that. Cool, and drop this one down, and then maybe just scale this back up again a little bit, just so it's in the right sort of size. Cool. Right. So I'd say sufficiently warmed up for today. Where we are going to go over, so I'm just checking my phone to upload some stories on Instagram. You can all follow me there at Callum.Gillespie, and cool. So today we are looking at some panel designs from some comics, recent comics. We've got issue 2 of Absolute Batman series, and we're looking at, no spoilers in this one, but just a panel. I'll find it so I don't reveal anything too much to you, but it is a scene where Batman is sliding down a chute here. And we've also got a early 2000s Spider-Man comic. This is Paul Pope, The Tales of the Tangled Webs. It's sort of like a one-off series where different artists were given characters to write like a one-shot for, and it's probably one of my favorite Spider-Man ones. And so I've scanned those in for you guys, which makes things a little bit easier, so you're not having to look constantly at a glary image of a comic. And we're just gonna start straight off with this Absolute Batman one. So I don't know how many people have been reading it, but I've been really enjoying this comic, actually. It's quite a fun new take on the Batman, I guess, universe. They sort of, it's Scott Schneider who's the writer on it. They sort of done a full redesign of the character so that he's no longer a playboy billionaire and just like us, except for the fact he's 7 foot tall and about 250 pounds. But yeah, so we're starting off with this panel here in the far left. So the first thing that you notice, you get this pull into the page with high contrast of the fire in the background and then Batman's shape here. It's a bit more clear in the comics, but he's got these little prongs that are his on his cape, and what they're doing is they are pushing us into this panel here. So we're coming down the page and then out to the next panel, and then this shape for Batman and direction is pulling us all the way through the page. So one of the most important things about panel design is the whole panel is one thing. So you really have to consider the flow of how people are viewing it and how it's going to go from the top left of the page down to the bottom right. Obviously, for Western audiences, that's the way that we would be reading our comics. A lot of manga obviously is read from right to left, and other differences between cultures. So they would obviously have different designs that would be based on that. But we're talking about Western comics today, so we're going to be focusing on that. And then we've got this super cool shape for Batman, which if I just lasso him, let's just do it. I'm going to use my least favorite tool, but the polygon lasso tool, to really get a silly shape for him, but just to really break it down in the most obvious way and try and pull out kind of, the simple things that are done right, rather than focusing too much on, story and design. It's really just breaking down to the basics of the design principles and how we can convey the story and drive the reader's eye through the comic. That's really annoying. I've lost my lasso. Right. Let's not do it that way. Let's just do it with my normal lasso. That is a really annoying thing to do, but it happens. It's all the TV magic of being live. So, say we fill in. Oh, that's why. Right. this is our Batman shape. And we will also do the same thing for all the Batmans, shall we? So Batman here. Just loosey-goosey. And Batman here. Oh, forgot his cape. And you can include this shape because I am just trying to go fast as I can. Another Batman. So obviously, comic book is about Batman. So Batman is the most important character, and so everyone's eye is going to be, Jesus Christ, sorry, I'm having a absolute time of it here, is going to be going to Batman. Let's put this down by my microphone, makes it a bit more harder. So Batman is also here. Now, if I just take the whole page and take it as one thing, we can see just on the shapes of Batman alone on this page, it's taking us into the page, across the page, to this corner, brings us to this shape. There's this shape, but it's also pointing us down, and this shape is bringing us here. So we've gone from this point to this point all the way just by connecting Batman. So I'd probably say this is one of the big take-homes that you can see from just really basic panel design, that we can get from one corner to the next corner and the page turn, all from the main points of focus that we want to with our characters. Now you can have, on top of that, we've got some cool secondary things where, like, the perspective here is obviously pushing you back into the comic. There's like a hell of a lot of force on this drawing here, where Batman's kind of being pushed down into the next panel below, and then this shape is obviously having a conversation across the panel, and then Batman's shape is then pulling us with this rod here, and then this is obviously not drawn straight up either. He's not drawing Batman like this. There's like he's actually rotated it, the artist, at this angle, so that it's going to pull you back through the comic. So that's all of my scribbles on top here. Now we've got to put it into maybe a little bit of action, and we can copy them out and just see what we can do from here. So got a hidden layer in there. Right. So as you can see again, running through those shapes of Batman from top left of the composition all the way down to the bottom. And I think that's one of the big take homes from this. And I really, really love this actual top right panel. So I'm going to do a little study of that one, and then we'll move on to the next comic page that we've got. I'm actually going to try and think about it in a bit more of a negative space kind of way. So you've got this big boot shape which is coming out here, and then from here and then this massive leg. God, this one's actually it's a bit of a crazy angle. Don't know how I would actually start that, because that boot is much more pushed into this corner than I was expecting. Right, maybe what we'll do is, so I'll try it again with a different brush. So going from this corner of the panel to about here is all of the perspective. And this is kind of the physical corner of said page. We're going nearly here, a little window of whatever description that is, and then Batman's actually quite far over this way, with this sort of line of action here, and then it's coming around, and his body, his hips are really far in front of him at this point, and then we've got this big swing up to his legs, which are ginormous. So obviously I'm nowhere near as talented as Mr. I double check his name because I only know his Instagram. Dragotta. What's his first name? Come on. His name is Dragotta Art on Instagram, and obviously you should follow him if you don't, because his work is amazing, and he's also got a load of his early concept work for the redesign of Batman, and yeah, it's super cool. So if you are on there, I think it's Dragotta Art, Dragotta. Yeah, it's kind of it's one of my favourite books at the moment. I think it's I don't know, I'm a sucker for a fun Batman story, and it's definitely one like that. It's definitely a fun one. You should let me know if there's any comics that you guys are reading and what you've been enjoying at the moment, or if you've read Absolute Batman and have been enjoying it. But yeah, definitely let us know in the chat for that, because it means that I can get some copies of comics that you guys like, and we can do the same sort of thing but with different books, and kind of just have a bit of a learning day. I'd quite like to have one day of the stream which is kind of a bit more dedicated to just getting better, like I think it's easy to just keep drawing and stuff, but you've got to push and learn and study what other people are doing, and yeah, that's what my hope is, that you can learn a little bit from them. I'm not looking to copy exactly, but just to learn a little bit about that way that they're telling stories through the panels, and yeah, maybe we can pick up some information for our own comic work. Some things we hadn't sort of tried. So yeah, there's this. Actually, it's quite funny because I would never draw calves and legs like this big, but it's a fun opportunity to do some wacky big calf muscles. Maybe like this. It's a tough angle for that boot. Something like this. And heel. Yeah. Kind of something like that. And then you've got Batman being like, "Hurr." Right there. So we've got shape of Batman coming down there. You've got this nice direction. Maybe we can look at the areas that are in shadow and parts that are in light on this. Actually, there's a really cool editions of these books that are coming out called the Noir editions, and you can see all the original artwork, which I think is pretty sweet. So it doesn't have any of the colouring added, and you still can see all the mistakes and stuff on there. So if you are an artist, I would definitely recommend having a look at the Noir editions for these books. You should be able to get them from your local comic book store. There's not that many of them anymore left in the UK, so I would definitely try and support them if you do have them locally to you. So obviously these boots are a big shadow shape. Coming in here. So you've got a big shape here in shadow, which is cool. So that's one, and then this is all pretty much just blacked out as well. There's a bit of rim lighting on there, but another shadow shape for the leg here. His pants, and then you've got his little bat logo, and then actually kind of joins into the face there, and actually quite like this shape. There's some black here across the chest, and then a bit of a shadow shapes picking up on this one. This is more of a shadow shape here, and then obviously the arm from there. And then we actually have this massively dark shape just on the top here, which is at a angle kind of just to draw you in and also provide like really nice contrast across the character here. And then Batman's cape, which I think you probably see more in the black and white art, I think is peeking up to this point. So actually kind of hard to see in the original, but there is this super cool cape design where it's coming straight from where he's fallen from. So in terms of just this one panel, you've kind of got your storytelling covered, where you've seen where he's come from, where he's going, and there's no need to over explain what's going on here. We're just straight away going, oh, okay, so he's falling down this elevator shaft or whatever it is, from one to the other. Be careful, he's dodged that tangent there, but that could quite easily become a really easy tangent to do. So if I drew that straight across there, this point becomes really strange for me to look at. So it's a real sticking point. This is what you call like a tangent. Do it all the time and have to always keep a conscious eye to try and correct it. So the easiest way would be just to run that line higher so that you don't get it and you don't have this point where suddenly your eyes drawn to where the knees and stuff cross over. So that's from there. And then, it's like a load of visual stuff to try and pull the eye down a bit more, but largely that is it for that panel. Let me see if I can get Batman's face in here. There you go. It's Batman. I'm going to definitely drop this hand down because I absolutely hate this. How I've managed to put that in the wrong place. And that's just this in the background. Cool. I'm not actually sure what he's holding on to there, but there's something that he's holding on to on this thing. Maybe someone can remind me or tell me in the comments what Batman's holding on to in this scene. Actually a much darker shape here to get that angle in there. And then, not perfect, but I think it gets the idea. And then you've got whatever these lines for your tread of the sole and stuff on here. It's also pretty neat. Right, cool. So that's that one. And then what we can look at here is maybe this one, which is a panel from one of Paul Pope's Spider-Man. It's from this comic here, Spider-Man The Tangled Web. It is a one-shot series that Marvel did as direct editions, and they were kind of given their famous IPs out to lots of different artists, and they were sort of told to write their own versions of stories. So this one is from the Spider-Man universe, and it's one of my favorites because it doesn't actually focus very much about Spider-Man himself. I definitely recommend you guys reading it. Obviously, Paul is a huge inspiration for me and my work, and we're going to have a look at an incredibly boring sequence now. No, it's right at the beginning of the comic, and this is actually probably the second page. And I thought it was interesting because it tells a story, but it doesn't have any words in it really. And it's kind of you, the reader, are the point of view. So you're kind of like following the camera through this staircase, down the stairs of this apartment building to effectively what is the villain's lair. So what we can see here, so Paul Pope was very famous for his brush work and still is. He's got so many books. Yeah, exactly. It is kind of like a horror comic. So it's got that kind of, I don't know, like, it feels to me like a Goosebumps novel. But yeah, we can see straight away that, you're kind of being or like, a dark house, there's a dark room, in a dark room. It's kind of like, you're kind of getting taken through in these different steps. But a lot of the line work is all pointing in this direction that we want to go, which is down the stairs here. It's a lot of the angles and stuff, and then even this shadow shape that we've got here. Better not be anything too spooky. This shadow shape is also pulling us down this way into this sort of section of cross-hatching, and then down into it here. And we've got this open shape here, which is kind of blocking off our path and telling us to go and follow these dark patterns here, which I think, if you look at the inking shape, we're going up into this section, across, down, and then into where we need to go. And then there's, effectively all you need to do is follow those shadow shapes. Same thing into the next panel. We've got this massive area of dark shadow shapes, which is the staircase, and that's pulling us down. Same as direction here. You've got this light shape, which is telling us, okay, you've gone too far on the panel, and you're being followed down the stairs into this direction. Now, I guess some people, you could critique here that it's not pulling us to this panel over here, but it probably is through this line of action, and you're being brought down by this line of action here, and kind of you follow mentally the staircase, it's going to take you around to this panel. So I think it still achieves a lot of what we were looking for. And again, same thing again, you've got this amazing dark ink shape, and then this is what Paul is just like an absolute king at, which is big, bold shape language. And yeah, this is just pulling us straight down the stairs, exactly where we want to go. A lot more visual information at the point where we're wanting to look. So all of these trash cans and stuff like that as well. Hell of a lot more detail put into this area, which is going to drive your focus. And obviously there's not as much detail put into this area here. And again, there's a little bit of a suggestion to move to the next panel. And again, same thing, really drumming it home. These big black shapes are showing us where we need to focus. And there is just this one slither of light, which gives you a super high contrast point. And again, all the directions pointing off that way. You still have a bit of indication of the staircase that we've just come from. There's a little bit of an Easter egg, so people kind of keep the visual connection of where we've been and where we're going. So this is just the first page of this, but are you talking, Rick, about my own book? If you are talking about my own book, it's Fruit, and Fruit is about to be released at some point in the new year. First issue is all being sort of wrapped up, and we're just so thank you. We are working on Fruit. At the moment we're sort of ironing out a little bit. I did originally like a Kickstarter on my own back in August for the first issue. And then actually I was lucky to be picked up by a publisher. So we are kind of going through the editorial process and going to really put a lot more work into it and put a really nice package out. So the beginning of the new year should hopefully have some more information. It won't be on Amazon as yet. So the hope is it will be through your local your comic shop, potentially, hopefully. But also through Kickstarter and stuff as well. So it's definitely worth following on socials or anything like that if you're interested in finding out more about Fruit. And on these streams, I'm going to try and do a bit more sort of behind the scenes and kind of, share a bit of the process of, the indie creator sort of thing and how that's all sort of going. But yeah, it's definitely one of these things where it's a lot of these sort of style of things have really helped me, because making comics is brutal. Yeah, definitely. Thanks for subbing. It's just so much to learn, and there's so much that you can, I don't know, just so many things that you have to try and get right to be able to tell a good story. And yeah, I think I worked in animation, did animation as my degree, so I was pretty good at, I guess, character movement and like these sort of like action scenes. The scenes that I struggled a lot with were things exactly like this, where, you know, you're trying to tell a story, keep it visually interesting, but in reality, if you look at this page, there is not very much going on. You know, it's a staircase and that's about it. But you really have to do a pretty good job at the basics to be able to keep someone engaged in a page like this. And I think it's good to sometimes have an example of these sort of things. It's quite easy when you've got a page like this with Batman, you know, and he's jumping and running around, people be like, oh, that's cool, and they're going to keep engaged. But when you're trying to tell a bit more of a subtle story, like this comic here, which is a Spider-Man comic, but it has very little about Spider-Man himself in it. As I say, if you haven't read it, I would definitely try and pick up some copies. It's hard to get a hold of now, but I'm always one to try and get more people reading Paul's work, because I think Paul is fantastic. Yeah, exactly. It definitely feels a lot like a Resident Evil game in this little panel here. And again, yeah, this tiny little light shape, and the colorist has done a really cool job of putting that little pop of pink just to tell people that, you know, this is where we're trying to go. And then, yeah, the final panel is obviously us going through the door. A little bit of the sound effect of what's going on, which is the villain welding his sort of big suit thing going on, and the little detail of 3 locks, which I think is an interesting one, because you could write a load of stuff about, oh, and he wants to keep it all secret and it's really high security and blah, blah, blah. But just by drawing 3 locks on this door, immediately we know, okay, no, he doesn't want anyone else to know about what's going on in here. And it just means you don't have to over-explain it, and you can explain it through your visual design. I think that's a really neat little trick that we've got here. Cool. And then maybe I'll move on to the final page, which is one of the later pages from here. It's probably one of my favorites, which is Spider-Man coming into the comic. So this is, not going to spoil it for you, but this comic is 20 years old. So if you haven't read it by now, you should get familiar. But this is the point where Spider-Man enters the comic and is in it for about 3 panels, and then that's about it. So it is, this girl here is actually the main character of the story, and you kind of learn about the situation of what's going on through her. And she loves Spider-Man. That's her whole shtick. And this is the first time that she meets Spider-Man in the book. So, yeah, that's all right. I'm trying to remember when this was published. I'll try and pull it up for you guys. It was published in you can tell 2002. You can tell from, I just love some of these old comics have got, like, look at the adverts, like, look at that. You'd have gone absolutely mental for a Gundam like that in 2002. And this, you could send off for a Spider-Man light cover for your Game Boy Advance. Come on. Imagine showing up to school with that. Whoa. Yeah, so this is 2002. So it's definitely an old one, but still a goodie. And you should, definitely pick one up if you can. The nice thing is, I don't think there's quite so much of a love for early 2000 comics as maybe I would have. And you can get a lot of them for quite a good price. So it's worth getting a hold of a copy if you can. So onto this panel, we've got this big smoke shape. Yeah, it's a trip, honestly. The old, and if you go back to sort of like 80s and 70s comics when they're like, you've got to collect 5 coupons and you can get a small plastic. It's like, send a letter with 25 cents in it to this address and we'll send you a pack of Marvel cards. You're like, what's going on? It's completely lost art, really. I don't know what I was doing there. Sorry, I got completely distracted. So we've got this big shape for the smoke, and this is all just brushwork from Paul. So he's just doing one big brush stroke, which is pretty committed, to be honest. He really was a bit of a rock star with it. And you go through this shape here, which is pulling us right down to the scene and straight down into this shape. The TV is also pulling us up towards the girl and the main focus, and she is also sitting right at the kind of apex of this curve, or where the like perspective lines are gonna all be kind of, spinning around. She's kind of, however this room is going, curving this way. So she's bang in the center of this panel, and another way that they achieve it, so I'll get rid of these reference lines so it's difficult to see, is again through contrast. So you've got this really dark shape here compared to a really open light shape. Again, dark shapes pulling us towards the character. I really didn't actually notice how often Paul did this in terms of shape design and just which parts he had dark and which parts he had light. I think it's definitely an interesting one to run through it. And then the next page, again, he's using these smokes signals to sort of pull you down to the character. The character has a nice shape to it that's also bringing you down to the next panel, and then you're kind of blocked off by this dark shape. But you have this tiny Easter egg here, which is obviously the man himself, Peter. And it's kind of cool because he just sort of pops in and out of this page in a really neat way. And the colorist also doing a great job here of, he's just saving that red for Spider-Man's suit and absolutely nothing else. And, that's exactly what you want. Even her skin tone is, much more muted and cooled off. We're quite close to the cooler side of these yellows than something like maybe here, which would be way warmer. But the colorist has gone, okay, this red is for Spider-Man and Spider-Man only. And so you get this kind of nice contrast between the two, rather than having to have it compete too much with the panel. And again, leaving space for our conversation, but that's pulling us in. This shape is also pulling us down, and then this shape pulling us to the next. So the hair shape pulling us to the next panel here, and then that little pop of Spider-Man. And this hair shape is what's bringing us down into these smoke shapes that he's got again, and then this hand, which I think is absolutely killer. Look at that. That's why I picked this panel. It's one of my favourites But yeah, it's framed again by these smoke shapes that he's putting around, and again, actually interestingly dark shapes to try and bring that contrast across from the hand. But yeah, this one's a killer, and I think that's probably the panel that we'll have a little copy from and try and see how we go. So if I try and get my general shape right on here. Ooh, definitely don't want a red panel. Hey Jamie, how you doing? Thanks for dropping in. We're doing some studying today, so get your sketchbooks out or your study guides. We're looking at a couple of panels. Yeah, I'm good, man. We've started off with some warm-ups, did some character sketches and stuff, and then we were looking at the new Batman book. This was obviously Absolute Batman #2, with this panel of Batman, and we kind of talked originally about how you can run through the page from the top left to the bottom right, just looking at Batman himself. So the shapes that Mr. I'm going to get this wrong again. Mr. Dragotta used helps you just to navigate through the page, and then we had a look at this top left panel here, and how using light and dark and different shapes and the shape of Batman, we can kind of get that effect and storytelling through there. So if you did miss it, you should pop back and look at the VODs. It will be all on there of me slowly and painstakingly drawing out this Batman panel. And then the next one we looked at was from this Spider-Man book by Paul Pope from 2002, the Tangled Web series, which are like one-shot stories of Spider-Man. And this was a really cool panel. This is from like the first 2 pages, where there's not a crazy amount of visual stuff going on, but it's a really good demonstration of sort of using really dark black ink shapes to draw the reader down through these set of staircases to the villain's lair at the bottom. And then the final page that I've been looking at is this one here, which is further down in the story, with the big reveal of the man himself, Mr. Spider-Man. And yeah, I'm just going to try and do a bit of a impression study of this one, but yeah, we'll try our best just to maybe just live for a little bit in the mind of Paul himself. So you've got your thing is Paul probably never be able to draw this shape twice again, so I'm not even gonna consider doing too much in terms of the shape design of it, because he wasn't worrying about it, so why should I? Let's go for a little bit of a shape here, and then we've got, what is this sort of this shape? So it's kind of gripping onto this concave surface. It's yeah, it's quite a odd angle to choose, but we'll go with it. What have you been up to today, Jamie? You been up to much yourself? Are you just editing? Try and get this shape down with a squiggly doesn't even have that much. It's got way more. Oh yeah, well we're having a learning day today. I think it was. I think it'd be quite a fun part of the stream. Really, got to have a little bit of learning, and that's kind of what it is, because I don't really feel like I've got a lot to teach. It's kind of one of those things where I think a lot of like art content on the internet and YouTube and stuff is all about like teaching you tips and tricks and whatever, but like I don't know, maybe you just need to learn. I just I'm not an expert. I don't know everything about it, so it's a case of just I don't know, just practicing and learning, and who better from than the best. I think it's you can really learn a lot from people if you just sort of kind of try and work out what they're up to. And this is when we're going to have a real battle, because this hand is nuts. Maybe this sort of shape. So apologies if I absolutely butcher this one, because I don't know, I think I'd probably stop drawing if I drew this hand in real life. I'd be like, alright, I'm done. This is it. Magnum opus achieved. It's really, it's kind of, right. It's got one knuckle here, one knuckle here. It's kind of coming back. It's also the suit that's kind of not helping, and then it cuts down this sort of shape. Knuckle here. This one's all twisted out. Maybe it's less of an angle here-ish. Something like this. I mean, I think, yeah, maybe. Whoa. It's a toughie. What we really should do is get Paul Pope on, and he can do it himself. Try and do it again. That would be nice. Because, this is a much more aggressive angle than I thought it was. Wow. I also got the chat up there as well. So I wonder what you thought, Jamie. It's my new addition to the stream. Just trying to improve things every sort of every go of it. So I popped it up there. I've also got it on my the chat just on here as well. Thought it was pretty nifty. I'll tell you what, this streaming malarkey is it's not the easiest thing in the world. So many different things you have to know. Right. So maybe you've got this weird shape here. It kind of comes out just like a tiny amount, and then it's so I reckon he's really leveraging these web shapes to help sort of markings on Spider-Man, because it's not the easiest hand. I'll give him that. Yeah, that's for sure. Oh yeah, I could probably definitely get a more compact version, but I think I can make it smaller as well, probably. I can definitely shrink it down in size. Maybe pop, yeah, no. You know, I need to fiddle around with it a bit more. Maybe put you down here so you can all still see what's going on. Also need to remember to try and, because my view on my Cintiq is completely different to what you guys see up there, so it's yeah, I need to definitely remember what you're seeing and what you're not. Right, let's drop the opacity down on here. And time to get crazy with it. So these ink shapes are definitely like contouring the fingers. So maybe we even just focus on that to begin with. And then he's got this knuckle ink mark, which is going into this big ink mark here, which then comes down to the one that we all know and love. Right. So he does this in thick lines as well. So it's coming around like this into the hand, a bit thinner, and then maybe coming down like this, and then we're selling this curve up, so it's going from here to this turn and then back round and down. These are kind of almost following the this one. It's a bit of a crazy one. I wouldn't even say that's particularly correct, but it follows round over this hand hump. So it looks to me like he's using a lot of his ink work to kind of guide the volume of the hand, and really like leveraging the web pattern design for Spider-Man's costume as your sort of means of selling that three-dimensionality to the that is even a word, three-dimensionality of the hand, because you see like here it's coming around, he's sort of looping around the form on this little section here, and that with these cross contours, which he's kind of using the web as, I would say, like a cross contour shape, is really what's helping sell this overall volume and like height to it, because that's really all we're trying to do, is make an illusion of what's happening here. And you know, the thumbs and fingers are literally just like not even crazy described, you know. It's just coming straight in here, and then another thick line of this here, and this is, I'm just going to blast this in because you kind of get the point. Maybe I'll get a bit thicker on it. But yeah, this is kind of how I'd see the way he's achieved what he's done. So it looks like a lot of it actually is kind of through that brushwork that a lot of it's been solved. But you know, I will tag him in the clip, and he's actually quite a nice and forthcoming chap, Paul, I've sort of found. So maybe he will be able to help us a little bit on how he approached it, or yeah, that would be super cool. A bit more information on that. And then there's this thick. So the outlines are actually kind of only on certain sections. There's this huge shadow shape here, and then like to here, this is all being like blown out this way, cut in, another blowout shape, not to get a tangent here. This is a risk of a tangent here of this shadow shape. So if I drop this shadow shape down like that, you can see that again I'd have hit that tangent on that thumb, and it would have made it really like a weird spot where I want the focus to actually be on the hand itself and that high contrast, but this tangent would help, would distract the viewer. So he comes in and then cuts that thumb much higher to avoid that tangent, but still follows the shape of the overall shape of the room that he was going for. So, right, we'll blast in this shadow shape. And then we can hopefully see how quick this has come together actually, which do you know what, I'm actually kind of chuffed with that one. It was a really tough hand, and I think I was really worried that I was gonna not get something that looked even a semblance close, but I reckon that is not that far off, you know. And he's got some sort of more interesting visual shapes here, and again, background sort of stuff and things, and kind of a nice shadow shape here. But yeah, I think we managed to get a close approximation. Obviously it's you know, not perfect in terms of the shapes and stuff, because you know I'm not Paul, and you know, but I reckon, little test, what we'll do, pop a new layer on, we'll put to multiply, and then we will see, oh God, I can even do that. We'll see how close we got. This is going to be really rough, so apologies again to everyone. Right, blast this in. It's under there. just gonna put that red just for a bit of fun. So you can definitely now see, maybe on this layer here, that there's more of an ink mark here, which is definitely bringing the form round, and this line seems really important on there, and there's a much more of an exaggeration of this here. But I think is yeah, I mean I would say that on it's not perfect, but I've done a lot of work that's quite I'd say Paul Pope adjacent, some people would probably say. So I kind of I don't know, I've always found myself to be quite a good emulator of like studier. It's kind of one of these things where emulator is probably like a wrong term, but like for a long part of my art journey, I definitely focused on just like studying and doing classes and being like in like the Watts Atelier and doing these like online stuff, and like it was great, but there's like a point in time where you kind of effectively are just doing this, where you're just doing like exercises, but then you kind of need to try and like take something away that I learned from it, because I'm not going to be like, oh yeah, I've just done this. What I probably would learn is that like, oh, okay, so the most important things that I kind of got out of this are the shadows, like the shadow shapes, which these things here are like super important for silhouetting this hand gesture that he's got going down. And then secondary to that, it's like shadow shapes plus the contours from the costume, which is really helping to sell that like volumetric idea of Spider-Man's hand. And then I think that's it, and then these smoke shapes are just kind of extra. But I think maybe a little bit of a note as well on the side is this kind of weird perspective grid that he's going. It's kind of like fisheyed, which is interesting. I think it's kind of what you can always, I think with any of these studies, you can always be like, oh yeah, and it's because of this and it's because of this and whatever, but maybe they were just drawing it and that was it. But I kind of feel like, when you consider Spider-Man as a character, he's crawling on the ceilings and all over the place, and there's a bit of a different, he's a crawling chap all over the place. So you're not, if you ran this completely flat, it doesn't sell the sort of idea of being like attached to a wall. Actually, that kind of weird perspective curve kind of makes me feel like he's crawling up a wall and like around to a viewer, whereas like if it was just like straight block 2-point perspective, I think it would be he certainly is a crawling chap all over the place. It's I think maybe in like just like think of it, was there early, like how you've got the sort of 1940s or whatever 50s Batman shows, it probably was like Spider-Man ones, right, that were equally sort of like, he's a crawling chap, see? He's just a web-slinging guy. All right, enough of that. I'll end up with some awful clips. Nice. Cool. So, think that's that one all covered. So, I do like this little shape here. You know, you've got this little Spider-Man guy. Look at that. This probably one of my favorite sections of the page. Just be like, I'm just gonna pop a Spider-Man here. He's just there in this like very nondescript shadow shape. You know, but it kind of helps pull you down and feeds into this arm and brings you into that next panel. And people always end up looking at eyes, you know, the eyes being the main focus of any of these things. So drawing the attention straight to an eye, she's looking up, which then helps sell the vertical perspective. And I mean, I guess another reason, just riffing why we use this sort of curved perspective grid, is that we're pulling the reader into the next page as well. Whereas if we had like a, you know, kind of 2-point perspective or whatever, it's going to really clash against it. So it kind of means that you can achieve this unexpected panel layout. You know, you'd imagine that if you were actually being taught comics at school, at university, if that is even a thing, then like the hand would be like more going down the panel. Just think about my hand for a second, you know, or whatever it is. Like it would be the shape would be this way to try and pull you around. It's not going to be that vertical orientation. What it would be something along the lines of, here's an easy way of showing it. God, the joys of digital, eh? Right, let's just grab this shape and let's go that. Come on Z, come on V, come on T. Ooh, the internet. It would probably be that if you were gonna be doing the sort of like classic, this is what the panel should look like, and it doesn't. And I think it looks better for it, because, you know, this would be the expected, I would say, what I would have done in the situation, is use that sort of shape of the hand. But I just think that this one works nicer. But, you know, each their own, and I just really like this sort of interesting perspective. And yeah, so that is all that she wrote, I think, on that one. What we'll do is I will drop all of these pages into the Discord, just on the art chat for people to be able to save and have a look at or whatever in the future if you want to catch up and do your own studies or whatever. I will run you back through the books so you can have a look. So we went through Spider-Man Tangled Web by Paul Pope. Buy it, please. It's one of my favorites. And Batman, Absolute Batman #2, which is, I think, the most recent one. I think the new one is coming out really, really soon. This one's a variant cover issue because I am a sucker for a variant cover. And yeah, so thank you everyone for dropping in. I'll be streaming weeknights here in the UK, probably from about 7 o'clock onwards tomorrow, 7 till 9 or 7 till 8. I think tomorrow we'll do some character stuff. So yeah, stay tuned for that, some more fruit things. I hope you enjoyed a bit more of a learning stream, and yeah, if you want to see some more of this, then let me know in the comments below. And yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in, and I'll see you guys all tomorrow.